The acrid smell of plasma lingered in the corridors of the EOS Vanguard as Captain Marcus Hale made his way to the command bridge. 3 days had passed since the victory at Arden IV, but the echoes of battle still haunted him. The screams of soldiers, the stench of burnt metal, and the weight of decisions that had cost lives. His physical scars were healing, but the mental ones remained raw. The ship hovered in the desolate reaches of the balance segment, a chaotic region of space where plasma storms disrupted standard radar systems. They were awaiting their next deployment orders, and Marcus had been summoned to what he assumed would be a commendation ceremony. After his performance in the last battle, a medal or promotion seemed likely. The command bridge buzzed with quiet activity as Marcus entered. Officers glanced his way with expressions he couldn't quite read. Respect mingled with something else. Pity, perhaps. He straightened his uniform and approached the central platform where Commander Harrison Huxley stood waiting, a datapad in hand. "Captain Hale," Huxley began, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Your service at Arden IV has been noted by Terran Central Command. Your tactical decisions saved countless lives." Marcus nodded, accepting the praise while keeping his face neutral. Beneath the surface, pride swelled. The battle had been brutal, but his squad had performed admirably. "In recognition of your service," Huxley continued, "you have been assigned a special duty." Marcus braced himself for the announcement of a new mission, perhaps something requiring his combat expertise. Instead, Huxley gestured toward the entrance. "Captain Hale, you are hereby tasked with the custody and care of an Arcanian noble hostage. May I present Jara of House Thale?" The bridge doors slid open to reveal a tall, slender figure. Her skin was a pale blue-green, contrasting with silver-white hair that fell to her shoulders. She wore torn battle armor, clearly once elegant but now damaged. Her eyes, large, luminous, and intensely violet, scanned the room with calculating intelligence before settling on Marcus. Confused murmurs rippled through the bridge crew. This wasn't a medal ceremony. This was... what exactly? As Jara approached, Marcus noticed the subtle grace in her movements despite the heavy guard escort. She stopped before him, her face an unreadable mask. Then, with only the slightest movement of her lips, she whispered 4 words that only he could hear. "You're in danger?" Marcus maintained his composure, even as confusion surged through him. Was this some kind of joke? A political arrangement? Why would he be assigned to babysit an alien prisoner of war? And what did she mean by those whispered words? "Captain, you will provide appropriate accommodations for Lady Jara within your quarters," Huxley continued, oblivious to, or perhaps ignoring, the whispered exchange. "This arrangement symbolizes the new peace between our civilizations and demonstrates Terran hospitality toward our former enemies." Marcus saluted automatically, military training overriding his bewilderment. "Yes, Commander." "Dismissed." As Marcus led Jara from the bridge, he felt the weight of stairs following them. The silence between them stretched uncomfortably until they reached his quarters, a modest suite befitting his rank. A sleeping area, small living space, and compact refresher unit. Once the door closed behind them, Jara immediately began moving around the space, running her long fingers along the edges of furniture, examining the ceiling corners, and checking behind wall panels. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, watching her methodical inspection. Jara paused, those violet eyes fixing on him with unsettling intensity. "You're in danger," she repeated, this time without bothering to whisper. "So you said. Care to elaborate?" She resumed her inspection, sliding her hand beneath the small dining table. "They're listening." "Who's listening?" "Everyone." She completed her circuit of the room and sat cross-legged on the floor, ignoring the perfectly good chairs. "Your commander, your crew, your ship itself." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his short, dark hair. "Look, Lady Jara." Just Jara. Fine. Jara. I don't know what game you're playing, but I've just come back from a battlefield where I watched good soldiers die. I'm not in the mood for cryptic warnings or theatrical inspections. Her expression softened almost imperceptibly. No game, Captain Hale. I'm trying to save your life. She gestured to the room around them. This ship is not what you think. Your victory at Ardennefor has made you a target. A target for what? We won the war. Your people surrendered. A small, bitter smile touched her lips. Is that what they told you? Before Marcus could respond, his coffee machine whirred to life unexpectedly, startling them both. Jara's reaction was immediate. She rolled away from the sound, taking a defensive position behind the couch. Marcus stared at the machine, then at Jara. It's just a malfunction, he said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. The machine had never activated on its own before. Jara slowly rose from her position. Perhaps, she conceded. Or perhaps not. Sleep lightly. Captain Hale. Tomorrow. We talk more. That night, Marcus lay awake, replaying the day's events. The alien bride assignment was bizarre enough, but Jara's warnings gnawed at him. He'd fought the Arcanians for years, learned to distrust their sophisticated tactics and technology. Yet, something in her eyes spoke of genuine concern, or was it all an elaborate deception? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft mechanical clicking. The coffee machine had turned on again, its lights blinking in an irregular pattern. As Marcus watched, the pattern began to seem familiar, not random at all, but rhythmic, like a code. When he finally drifted to sleep, his dreams were filled with violet eyes and whispered warnings. Morning brought no clarity. Jara was already awake, sitting in the same cross-legged position, eyes closed in what appeared to be meditation. She opened them the moment Marcus stirred. Your ship has unusual power fluctuations, she observed casually. Marcus checked his datapad. Indeed. There was a notice about minor electrical irregularities throughout the night. Nothing significant, but enough to be logged. Maintenance issue, he said, though doubt crept in. Look, Jara, I need to report for duty. You'll have to stay here. I'll accompany you. That's not how this works. You're a... He hesitated, unsure of her exact status. Prisoner? Guest? Wife? She rose gracefully to her feet. Whatever you wish to call me, separation is not advisable. Your danger is my danger now. And why is that? Because I've been seen with you. Because I spoke to you. Because I was given to you. She approached, stopping just short of his personal space. I know things, Captain. Things about this ship, about your victory at Ardennefor, about why you're suddenly being rewarded with an alien companion. Something in her tone made him pause. Fine. You can come with me to the mess hall, then back here. But no more cryptic warnings without explanation. She nodded once, a small victory. The mess hall fell silent as they entered. Marcus felt the weight of stares from his fellow officers and crew members. He led Jara to the food dispensers, conscious of the bubble of isolation forming around them. Ensign Rill approached their table as they sat down. Marcus had always appreciated Rill's friendly demeanor and technical expertise during previous missions. But something seemed off about the communications officer today. His usual warm smile appeared stiff, his movements slightly mechanical. Captain Hale, Rill greeted, his voice oddly flat. I see you're adjusting to your new assignment. Getting there, Marcus replied, studying his old comrade. Everything all right with you, Rill? You seem different. Never better, sir. Just busy with the post-battle reports. Commander Huxley has us working double shifts to document our victory. Jara's eyes narrowed slightly as she observed the exchange. Under the table, her foot pressed gently against Marcus's, a silent signal. Of course, Marcus said. Don't let us keep you. As Rill walked away, Jara leaned forward. "That is not your friend," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "What do you mean?" "Watch his movements. The micro-expressions. That is not the same person you knew." Marcus was about to dismiss her paranoia when Captain Syra entered the mess hall. The ship's true commander had been notably absent since their return from Arden IV, supposedly dealing with classified communications. She scanned the room, and for a brief moment, her eyes met Marcus's, then quickly darted away as she turned and exited, without taking any food. "She's avoiding you," Jara observed. "Your ship's captain fears you, or fears being seen with you." Back in his quarters, Marcus couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. He decided to access the ship's communication logs, using his security clearance to review recent transmissions. What he found disturbed him. Every report he'd submitted about the Arden IV battle had been duplicated, slightly altered, and then forwarded to a secure server deep within the ship's core. His original reports described a chaotic battlefield, questionable orders from Central Command, and victories achieved despite flawed intelligence. The altered versions painted a cleaner picture: heroic Terran forces triumphing over Arcanian aggression according to perfectly executed plans. As he dug deeper, the door to his quarters slid open. Marcus quickly closed the terminal, but Jara had already seen what he was doing. "You're beginning to see," she said, approaching the terminal. "May I?" After a moment's hesitation, Marcus moved aside. Jara's fingers flew across the interface with surprising familiarity. "How do you know our systems?" he asked. "Arcanian intelligence. We've been studying Terran technology for decades." She accessed a hidden directory, revealing a trove of classified files. There, the truth about Arden IV. The screen filled with battle plans, communications, and casualty reports, all dramatically different from the official record. According to these files, Arden IV hadn't been an Arcanian stronghold at all, but a refugee outpost. The enemy combatants had mostly been civilians. "This can't be right," Marcus whispered, horror creeping through him. "It is," Jara said quietly. "My family was there. House Thale maintained the refugee center. I was off-world when the attack came, but I lost everyone: parents, siblings, cousins." Marcus stared at her. "Then why are you helping me? Why not kill me in my sleep?" "Because you're a soldier who followed orders based on lies. Your Commander Huxley, however, knew exactly what he was doing." Her eyes hardened. "He orchestrated the massacre and falsified the reports. And now he fears you've seen something, knows something that could expose him." "What could I possibly know? I was just following tactical directives." Jara pulled up Marcus's original, unaltered battle report. "Here, you noted discrepancies between your intel and what you found on the ground. You questioned the civilian presence, small notes, buried in technical language, but enough to raise flags for anyone looking closely." Marcus felt sick. "So this honor of being assigned an Arcanian noble is a way to monitor you while deciding how to eliminate you," Jara finished. "They could have killed you outright, but that might raise questions. This way, if you have an accident while managing a dangerous alien prisoner..." The terminal suddenly went black, then rebooted to the standard interface. An alert flashed. "System maintenance in progress. All terminals temporarily restricted." Jara didn't seem surprised. "They know we're looking. We need to move quickly." "To do what, exactly?" "To access the ship's core database. I can help you retrieve the actual records of what happened, not just at Arden IV, but across the war. Evidence of Huxley's war crimes, and those of others in Terran Command who rewrote history." Marcus paced the small room, mind racing. "Even if what you're saying is true, we'd never get access. The core database is maximum security, deep in engineering sections." Jara smiled for the first time since her arrival, a small, knowing curve of her lips. I have something that might help. From a hidden compartment in her damaged armor, she extracted a small crystal key. Arcanian override codes. They'll get us into any secondary data hub, from which we can create a path to the core. You had this the whole time. Why give it to me? Why not use it yourself? The codes require both Arcanian biometric authentication and Terran officer clearance. Neither of us could use it alone. She held out the crystal. Partners. Captain Hale? Marcus stared at the key, feeling the weight of the decision before him. Everything he'd fought for, believed in, could be based on lies. Or this could be an elaborate Arcanian plot to compromise ship security. But the altered reports, Syra's avoidance, Rill's strange behavior, it all pointed to something deeply wrong aboard the EOS Vanguard. He took the crystal. Partners. But if you're playing me, Jara of House Thale, I'll make sure you regret it. She nodded solemnly. Fair enough. That night, as they formulated their plan, the lights in Marcus's quarters flickered ominously. The coffee machine turned on and off in irregular bursts. The door to the refresher unit jammed for 10 minutes, then suddenly released. They're watching us more closely, Jara observed. Testing the systems they can control remotely. Can they hear us? Possibly. I've been using low-frequency Arcanian harmonics to disrupt nearby listening devices, but it's not foolproof. Marcus lowered his voice anyway. We move tomorrow, during the third shift when the corridors are least staffed. There's a maintenance access point near hydroponics that leads to the secondary server levels. Jara nodded. I know a more direct route. The ventilation system behind your refresher unit connects to the lower decks. It bypasses the main corridors entirely. How would you know that? Arcanian intelligence had complete schematics of this vessel class. We've been preparing for this war longer than you realize. Marcus didn't sleep that night, instead watching Jara as she meditated in the dim light. Was he making a terrible mistake trusting her? His entire career, his loyalty to the Terran forces, weighed against the growing evidence of deception from his own command. Morning brought an unexpected complication. Marcus was summoned to a debriefing with Commander Huxley, alone. I can't leave you here, he told Jara. If they're planning something. They are, she confirmed. This is likely a distraction while they search your quarters, or prepare some accident for your return. She thought for a moment. Take me with you. Claim you're concerned about leaving an Arcanian prisoner unattended. The gambit worked, though Huxley's displeasure was evident in the tight lines around his mouth when Marcus arrived with Jara in tow. This is a classified debriefing, Captain, Huxley said coldly. My orders were to maintain custody of the prisoner at all times, Marcus replied, adopting a tone of professional concern. Given her status and capabilities, I deemed it unwise to leave her unattended. Huxley's gaze shifted to Jara, who kept her eyes downcast in a convincing display of submissive captivity. Very well. She can wait outside with the guards. With respect, Commander. My orders specified personal custody. A tense silence followed, before Huxley relented with obvious reluctance. She may remain, but this sets a concerning precedent, Captain. The debriefing itself was tense but uneventful, a review of Marcus's actions at Arden IV, with subtle attempts to make him contradict his original reports. Jara remained silent throughout, though Marcus noticed her attention sharpening whenever Huxley mentioned specific battle coordinates or casualty counts. When they returned to his quarters, they found evidence of a thorough search, items slightly out of place, the terminal showing recent activity logs. They're getting nervous, Jara observed. We need to move tonight, not tomorrow. Marcus agreed. As they finalized their plan, he found himself studying Jara with growing curiosity. Why are you really helping me? Revenge for your family wouldn't require all this. You could have just killed Huxley. Jara was quiet for a long moment. Killing Huxley would change nothing. The system that allowed him to order the massacre would remain intact. She met Marcus's gaze directly. My people want peace, Captain. Real peace. Not the subjugation being called peace in your reports. For that, the truth must be known, by both sides. That evening, they were invited to a formal dinner with the ship's senior officers. Another unexpected development. Jara regarded the invitation with deep suspicion. It's a perfect opportunity to eliminate you. Poison that affects only human physiology. Perhaps? That's paranoid even for you, Marcus said, though doubt crept in. They wouldn't risk poisoning a decorated captain at a public event. They would if they could make it look like illness, or an allergic reaction, or if they could blame it on your Arcanian companion. She held his gaze. Skip the dinner, claim illness. We'll use the time to access the data hub. Marcus shook his head. No, that would only increase suspicion. We attend, but you taste nothing before I do, and I'll limit what I consume. The dinner was an uncomfortable affair. Conversation flowed around topics of the victory, future deployments, and the unusual cultural exchange of Marcus's new assignment. Jara maintained a facade of quiet dignity, while Marcus navigated the pointed questions from his fellow officers. Midway through the meal, he noticed Jara subtly examining his food when a new course arrived. With a nearly imperceptible shake of her head, she indicated he should avoid the dish. He pushed it aside, claiming to be saving room for dessert. By the time they left, Marcus was feeling lightheaded despite his caution. In the corridor, Jara steadied him with a strong grip on his arm. You've been drugged, she murmured. Not lethal, but enough to incapacitate you. Had you eaten the full meal, you would be unconscious. How do you know? Your pupils are dilated, and your skin has a slight pallor. Classic signs of somnax, a mild sedative often used in Terran military operations. They made it back to his quarters just as the dizziness intensified. Marcus collapsed onto the edge of his bed, fighting to stay conscious. We'll have to postpone, he managed to say. No. Jara was already moving to the refresher unit, removing the access panel she'd identified earlier. This works to our advantage. They'll think you're incapacitated. Security will be relaxed. I can barely stand. She returned to his side, producing a small vial from another hidden compartment in her armor. Arcanian counteragent. It will neutralize most of the sedative effects, though you'll still feel disoriented. Marcus eyed the vial suspiciously. And I should trust you because I could have let you eat the poisoned dish. Because I could kill you right now while you're weakened, if that were my goal. She held out the vial. Because we're partners. Marcus Hale. It was the first time she'd used his first name. Something in her tone, a softness beneath the urgent practicality, made him take the vial and swallow its contents. The liquid burned going down, then spread a tingling warmth through his limbs. Give it 5 minutes, she said, returning to the ventilation access. Then we move. The counteragent worked as promised. Though not fully recovered, Marcus found he could function. They slipped into the narrow ventilation shaft, Jara leading the way, with surprising confidence through the labyrinthine passages. They emerged in a dimly lit maintenance corridor deep within the ship. Jara oriented herself quickly, then pointed toward a junction ahead. Secondary data hub is through there, behind a security door. The door required both a Terran officer's biometric scan and a 6-digit code. Marcus provided his handprint while Jara inserted the crystal key into an almost invisible slot beside the panel. Zeta override engaged, a soft, computerized voice announced as the door slid open. Inside, banks of servers hummed in climate-controlled isolation. Jara moved directly to a central terminal, her fingers flying across the interface with practiced precision. We have approximately 8 minutes before the system registers the unauthorized access, she said as she worked. I need to create a direct link to the core database without triggering the isolation protocols. Marcus kept watch at the door while trying to process what was happening. Here he was, a decorated Terran captain, helping an Arcanian prisoner hack into classified military systems. All because of a growing conviction that his own commanders were lying about the war he'd fought. "I've found it," Jara called softly. "The unaltered battle logs from Arden IV." Marcus joined her at the terminal, watching as the true record of the battle unfolded before him. The tactical overlay showed clearly that the Arcanian position had contained no military installations, only the refugee center and minimal defensive capabilities. The communication logs revealed Huxley explicitly ordering the targeting of civilian structures, overriding objections from field commanders. And there, embedded in the casualty report, was a list of the dead from House Thale, Jara's family. 23 names, including children. "This is..." Marcus couldn't find words adequate to the horror he felt. "War crime," Jara finished quietly. "One of many. But there's more." She accessed another directory. The entire Arden campaign was manufactured to cover up earlier failures. And look, your promotion to captain was never officially registered with Central Command. It exists only in the EOS Vanguard systems. "A false promotion? Why?" "To isolate you. Officers of your actual rank wouldn't have access to the information you've seen. If you tried to report discrepancies to Central Command, you'd be dismissed as delusional, a navigator claiming captain's privileges." A warning flashed on the screen. "Security scan initiating." "We need to go," Jara said, quickly downloading the files onto a secure data crystal. But first, she initiated a command sequence that Marcus didn't recognize. "What are you doing?" "Creating a broadcast package. When we're ready, we can transmit all of this evidence to both Terran and Arcanian authorities simultaneously." She finished the sequence and pocketed the crystal. "Now we run." They barely made it back into the ventilation shaft before alarms began blaring throughout the section. As they crawled through the narrow passages, Marcus heard security teams mobilizing below. "They know," he panted. "How?" "The Zeta override created a log entry when it disengaged. I couldn't prevent that." Jara moved with fluid grace despite the confined space. "We need a new exit point. Our quarters will be the first place they check." They emerged in a storage area near the ship's hydroponics section. Automated cultivation systems tended rows of plants that supplied the vessel with fresh produce and oxygen regeneration. "We need a plan," Marcus said, trying to think through the remnants of the sedative fog. "We have the evidence, but how do we broadcast it? Every communication system will be monitored. The bridge has an emergency broadcast system that overrides normal channels," Jara replied. "Designed for distress signals that can't be blocked. The bridge is the most secure location on the ship. We'd never make it. Not through conventional means. No." Jara studied him thoughtfully. "But as a decorated captain returning with his alien bride, after falling ill at dinner? Perhaps." It was a desperate plan, but they had few options. Marcus used his authority to requisition a maintenance uniform for Jara, who tucked her distinctive silver hair beneath the cap. They fabricated a medical emergency, Marcus claiming recurring symptoms from his illness that required the ship doctor's attention. The ruse got them through several checkpoints, but as they approached the medical bay adjacent to the bridge, Ensign Rill appeared with 2 security officers. "Captain Hale," he said in that same flat voice. "Commander Huxley has ordered a ship-wide search for you. You're to be escorted to his office immediately." Marcus straightened, summoning his most authoritative tone. "I'm on my way to medical, Ensign. Unless the commander's orders supersede a medical emergency." Rill's expression didn't change. "Your Arcanian should remain with security while you report to the commander." "That contradicts my standing orders for her custody." Something shifted in Rill's eyes. A momentary blankness, followed by an artificial focus. "Contradicting orders have been logged. Security protocol dictates commander's orders take precedence." Before Marcus could respond, Jara moved with blinding speed. Her hand struck a precise point on Rill's neck, and the ensign crumpled, The security officers reached for their weapons, but Jara was already in motion, disarming one with a sweeping kick and incapacitating the other with a strike identical to the one that had felled Rill. "Arcanian nerve technique," she explained, as Marcus stared in shock. "They'll wake in 20 minutes with no permanent damage." They dragged the unconscious men into a storage closet, where Marcus examined Rill more closely. Something about the ensign's appearance bothered him. On impulse, he checked behind Rill's ear and found a small surgical scar that hadn't been there before Arden IV. "Some kind of implant," he murmured. "You were right. This isn't the Rill I knew." "A control device. Or perhaps a full consciousness replacement," Jara confirmed grimly. "Huxley has been systematically replacing crew members who might be loyal to you or Captain Syra. Their new plan was even riskier. With the ship now on alert, they couldn't approach the bridge directly. Instead, they would access the command deck through an emergency maintenance shaft, bypassing the main security checkpoints. The shaft was narrow and poorly lit, designed for repair drones rather than human maintenance. They climbed in tense silence, listening for any sign of pursuit. "If we succeed," Marcus whispered as they neared the top, "what happens to you? You'll be exposing yourself as more than just a prisoner." Jara paused in her climbing. "If we succeed, the truth about Arden IV becomes known. My family's deaths won't have been meaningless. That's enough." "And us? This partnership?" She resumed climbing. "One problem at a time, Captain." They emerged into a service corridor just off the bridge, through a small viewport. Marcus could see the command crew at their stations, with Commander Huxley pacing near the captain's chair. Of Captain Syra, there was no sign. "The emergency broadcast console is on the far side," Marcus whispered. "We'll never reach it without being seen." Jara studied the layout. "We need a distraction." "Or a hostage," came a cold voice behind them. They spun to find Commander Huxley standing with 3 armed guards, weapons trained on them. How he had anticipated their route, Marcus couldn't guess, but the commander's smug expression suggested he'd been waiting for this moment. "Captain Hale," Huxley said, his voice dripping with false regret. "Conspiring with an enemy combatant, accessing restricted systems, assaulting fellow officers. The list of charges grows by the minute." "Not as long as your list, Commander," Marcus replied, slowly raising his hands. "Falsifying battle reports, targeting civilians, mass murder disguised as military victory." Huxley's smile never wavered. "Desperate accusations from a man clearly suffering from post-traumatic stress, manipulated by an Arcanian spy. No one will believe you, Marcus." "They will when they see the evidence." "What evidence? The fabrications you downloaded?" Huxley gestured, and one of the guards stepped forward, confiscating the data crystal from Jara. "Everything you stole has already been purged from the system, and this," he took the crystal, "will be analyzed and found to contain nothing but Arcanian propaganda." Marcus felt a moment of despair, but Jara remained calm beside him. "You're thorough, Commander," she acknowledged, "but not thorough enough." Huxley's smile faltered slightly. "Take them to the brig," he ordered the guards. "Separate cells, maximum security. The Arcanian is to be kept in isolation." As the guards moved to comply, the ship suddenly lurched, throwing everyone off balance. Emergency lights flashed as the vessel's artificial gravity fluctuated. "What was that?" Huxley demanded into his communicator. "Engineering, report!" While the commander was distracted, Jara moved. She grabbed the nearest guard, using him as a shield while disarming him in one fluid motion. Marcus followed her lead, tackling another guard and wrestling away his weapon. Plasma fire scorched the wall as Huxley and the remaining guard opened fire. Marcus and Jara took cover behind a console, returning fire strategically to drive their opponents back toward the bridge entrance. "The broadcast console," Jara shouted over the weapons fire. "We need to reach it." "Cover me," Marcus replied, then sprinted across the open space toward the emergency systems. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, searing through his uniform and into flesh. He stumbled but maintained his momentum, reaching the console and slamming his palm onto the biometric reader. "Emergency protocols engaged," the computer announced. "State nature of emergency." "Evidence transmission," Marcus gasped, inserting Jara's crystal into the port. "Priority override." "Unable to comply without command authorization," the computer responded. Marcus swore. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. "Authorization required," the computer repeated. "Captain or acting commander must validate emergency broadcast." "Broadcast override. Zeta Protocol," called a new voice. Captain Syra, emerging from a side entrance with a security team of her own. "Authentication. Syra 79 Delta." "Syra!" Huxley's face contorted with rage. "You're supposed to be contained." "Your clone troopers aren't as loyal as you think, Harrison," Syra replied coldly. "Especially when they discover their disposable copies rather than the originals." The bridge erupted into chaos as Syra's security team engaged Huxley's guards. In the confusion, Marcus activated the transmission sequence, sending the unaltered battle records and evidence of Huxley's crimes to all channels: Terran Command, Arcanian leadership, and public news networks throughout the galaxy. "Broadcast complete," the computer announced. Huxley, seeing his plans crumbling, made a desperate lunge toward Marcus, weapon raised. "You've ruined everything!" Jara intercepted him, blocking his shot. The commander's plasma pistol discharged, the bolt striking her squarely in the chest. She stumbled backward, but remained standing, her expression one of grim satisfaction rather than pain. "The danger isn't over," she told Huxley, her voice steady despite her wound. "But the truth is out. Your war is finished." Syra's security team quickly subdued the commander, forcing him to his knees. The captain approached, regarding Marcus with a mix of respect and regret. "I should have acted sooner," she said. "Huxley had me isolated after Arden the Fool, replaced with a compliant double for public appearances. If not for your Arcanian friend finding my location." She nodded toward Jara, who was now leaning heavily against a console, one hand pressed to her injury. "She needs medical attention," Marcus said urgently. "We all do," Syra replied, looking around at the wounded on both sides. "This ship has been sick for a long time. Captain Hale, the healing starts now." In the following days, the EOS Vanguard became a microcosm of the larger upheaval spreading throughout Terran space. The evidence Marcus and Jara had broadcast couldn't be contained or explained away. Investigations were launched, commanders recalled, and a fragile new dialogue opened between Terran and Arcanian leaders. Marcus found himself caught in the center of the storm. His actions were both praised as heroic whistleblowing and condemned as treason, depending on who was speaking. Through it all, he visited Jara daily in the medical bay, where she was recovering. "Your wound is healing well," he observed on the 5th day, pulling a chair beside her bed. "Arcanian physiology," she replied with a small smile. "We recover quickly." "And your status has been officially changed from prisoner to diplomatic liaison. Captain Syra made sure of that." Jara nodded. A step in the right direction, though Alien Bride had a certain dramatic flair to it. Marcus laughed softly, surprising himself. Amid all the chaos, he hadn't expected to find moments of levity. "About that, the whole arrangement was just a cover to keep me under surveillance, wasn't it?" "Initially, yes," Jara acknowledged. "Though in Arcanian culture, the concept of bride carries different connotations than in yours. It signifies a battle partner, someone who fights alongside you against common enemies." "So I accidentally married a warrior spy." In a manner of speaking, her violet eyes studied him with new warmth. "Does that disturb you?" Before he could answer, Captain Syra entered the medical bay, her expression grave. "We've found Admiral Corrin Vale," she announced without preamble. Marcus stood quickly, Alive? Barely. He's been in a cryopod deep in the ship's storage levels. Apparently, Huxley couldn't risk killing him outright, given his popularity, but needed him contained. The Admiral was the original target of the Arden 4 deception, Jara noted. He had discovered evidence of earlier war crimes and was preparing to present it to Terran Central Command. How did you know that? Syra asked, surprised. Arcanian intelligence had been tracking his movements. We believed he might be a potential peace advocate. Jara sat up straighter, wincing slightly at the movement. His testimony will be crucial to the full investigation. If he recovers, Syra said soberly. The cryo process was improperly administered. The medical team is doing everything possible. Later, as Marcus helped Jara walk the short distance to the observation deck for some therapeutic view of the stars, he returned to their interrupted conversation. You never finished explaining about the Arcanian concept of bride, he said as they stood before the vast viewport. The balance segment's plasma storms, creating an ethereal light show against the black of space. It's complicated, Jara replied, her shoulder lightly touching his as she steadied herself. But the essence is partnership in adversity. Facing danger together creates bonds stronger than many of your Earth marriage customs. So we're already married by Arcanian standards? She smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. Not quite. There are rituals, vows of mutual protection and truth-telling. Her expression grew more serious. But we have fought together, protected each other. It's a beginning. What happens now? Marcus asked, gesturing toward the stars. To all of this? Investigation, revelation, perhaps eventually reconciliation. She turned to face him directly. The Alliance Commission is requesting my testimony, and yours. We'll need to travel to a Thea station in Arcanian space. Marcus hesitated. That would mean leaving the EOS Vanguard, my post. Your post under a false promotion, fighting a war based on lies. Jara reminded him gently. What remains for you here, Marcus Hale? He had no immediate answer. The ship that had been his home now felt alien to him, its corridors haunted by betrayal and deception. His career, once a source of pride, had been built on manufactured victories and civilian casualties rebranded as enemy combatants. A week later, Marcus stood in the shuttle bay, a single bag containing his few personal possessions slung over his shoulder. Captain Syra had arranged for a small vessel to transport him and Jara to a Thea station, where representatives from both civilizations would begin the painful process of reconstructing the truth about the war. Jara waited by the shuttle, now dressed in a formal Arcanian diplomatic uniform that accentuated her tall, slender frame. Her silver hair was arranged in an intricate style that signified her house and status. Ready? She asked as he approached. Marcus looked back at the EOS Vanguard one last time. Is the danger over now? He asked, echoing her frequent warning from when they'd first met. Jara's violet eyes held his. Danger isn't over, she said softly, but now is the time to rebuild. Together, they boarded the shuttle, leaving the EOS Vanguard behind. As the small craft navigated away from the battleship, Marcus watched through the viewport as it grew smaller against the backdrop of the balance segment's swirling plasma clouds. The future before them was uncertain. Peace negotiations would be fragile, resistance from both sides inevitable. Those who had profited from the war wouldn't surrender their power easily. The path ahead would be fraught with new dangers, new battles to fight. But as Jara's hand found his in the darkness of the shuttle cabin, Marcus knew they would face whatever came next as they had faced Huxley's conspiracy, together, bound by truth and the strange, unexpected partnership that had begun with 4 whispered words. You're in danger. The danger wasn't over. Perhaps it never would be. But for the first time since Arden IV, Marcus felt something like hope stirring within him. Not the false pride of manufactured victory, but the quiet strength of purpose. Whatever came next, they would meet it head-on, the Terran captain and his Arcanian bride, navigating the treacherous space between two civilizations, learning to coexist after years of manufactured hatred. As the shuttle engaged its faster-than-light drive, Marcus squeezed Jara's hand. They disappeared into the stars, leaving the past behind and moving toward whatever uncertain future awaited them among the endless possibilities of the galaxy.